So once again, you'll have to tell me if there's issues. I'm having quite a few issues here today. I don't know why. For whatever reason, whenever I put the info in, it's not. It's defaulting back to an old Facebook Live that I did. But for whatever reason, you guys are getting low volume on your end too, and that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, I've got good video, good volume levels on my end. So just let me know if it still says that same thing, which I don't understand why it continues to say Super Bowl snow and that kind of thing because we're not dealing with that. That's 2 months ago. Um, so I'm not sure what's going on with some of these here. So you'll have to let me know. So let me know if it still says Super Bowl snow, and let me know if you still can't hear me. But looks like it saved that time. So looks like we're good. So let's start and talk about a little bit more about what's going on. So hopefully things are good on your end. We're doing a little update here, not only on Facebook but also on YouTube and on Twitch. Twitch is a gamers platform. We have very few people viewing us on there at this time, but I'll still from time to time have maybe one or two people that may show. We're just trying to reach as many people as we can at this point in time here to kind of give you the good information, not the bad information. So, without further ado, um, let me kind of explain what you see here. So, we've been the weather guys in the weather office have been trying to start a podcast for quite some time now, but these things they take time to do, and I just don't have a lot of time. I'll be honest about it. I just don't have a lot of time for anything right now. My wife and I have a lot going on with our dog business, our puppies, and our service dog business. Um, I've got a lot going on here renovating this house, and also have a lot going on as far as also stuff at the station. I've been trying to get a new deal linked out to keep me there for at least 3 more years. I think that's finally done. So, but the YouTube or the podcast that we're wanting to do, you can see something here that's called Beyond Weather, and the reason why it's going to be called Beyond Weather is because I have a lot of interest in the guys in weather department. We have a lot of interest outside of weather. Don't get me wrong, we love weather, but we also have a lot of interest outside of weather as well. And we're going to be talking about things on our podcast and here on lives and whatnot that'll be weather related sometimes, but a lot of times it won't be. So that's what we're working towards doing here at this time. So all right, so let's talk about what's going on weather-wise. I'll admit that my forecast for today is a little bit off. Let's see if we can go to you may and I may have to jump out here for a minute or two whenever I have when I got dogs and stuff barking in the background here and whatnot. So if I have to jump off, I do apologize. So I only have 25 viewers, so it says on. So my mic is low. See that I don't understand why my mic is low. It doesn't make any sense to me why my mic is low. I'm talking right into it. I have great audio levels on my end, so I don't know what's going on with it. Why my mic is so low. So I have no idea. I really don't. I really have no idea why. Um, I don't really like this mic very much anyway. It was kind of a cheaper mic, and I think I'm gonna go buy me an expensive one that maybe I'll have better luck with. So I don't know, but we'll see. Some people say they have issues. Some people say they don't. So it goes in and goes out. Hmm. I don't know. It shouldn't be going in and out. That's for sure. It should be good. I mean, like I say, all my levels are great on my end. Maybe Garrett, maybe it's something on your end. Maybe I don't know because everything I see here, at least on my end, looks pretty good. So let's look at the radar, and I'm going to admit that my forecast is a little bit off today. Um, I hate to say that, but I really thought that this would be a pretty wet day weather-wise. And every once in a while, we get some bad weather data that that really causes us to blow our forecast. This is the current radar, and if you take a look at it here, you can see there's over at least northwest Texas, southwest Oklahoma. There's nothing going on here right now, not really, not even any rain. And I really thought we'd be pretty wet by now. We're not. If we look though down to the south, if you look down here towards Abilene, there are some thunderstorms that are firing up, and our weather information did do a pretty good job with this area of storms down here today. And I believe that these storms in time that's down here towards Abilene will eventually build northward and impact parts of Young, Jack, Wise, and Montague counties. I do believe that in time that will happen. Um, and eventually, again, and if you're watching me in my viewing area anyway, I think that the eastern parts of the area may see some good heavy rainfall this afternoon. These are not severe at this time, but they could produce a little hail. So that is something that we'll, um, keep at least an eye on. We'll keep an eye on that and see if those storms try to increase any. So these may pose a bit of a hail threat as they make their way north and northeast. Now, if the thunderstorms become super widespread down here and into our eastern counties this afternoon, then we're going to run into a situation where it pulls a lot of the energy out of the atmosphere, or it will keep thunderstorm energy from developing, is what it would do. So we'll have to kind of watch. It's kind of a complex type of situation. Number one, this is not an ideal severe weather setup for us. Um, it is a situation where, man, I can't believe I've only got 40 views. There's got to be something wrong with this stream here because I have 40 people watching, and I can do it more on my phone, and I'll have at least 100 people watching. So this is very odd. It's real frustrating because I've worked really hard on getting, and I spent a lot of money, and I've worked really hard on getting this to work, and it looks like it's crap, is what it looks like to me. So sorry about that. I'm just a little frustrated at this point in time on what's going on with this and why it's not any better than this. It should be the best. So let me know if you see issues on your end. So anyway, there are the thunderstorms that I'm watching down there. Well, shoot, see, and this should be. Let me do something here better. I apologize here. Let me go. This is what I'm watching. This is what I want to go. The radar. There it is. Okay. Again, this is a lot of this stuff is new to me, and I'm trying to work out bugs, and there's the radar. All right, so now what we're doing is we're watching these thunderstorms that are down towards Abilene. These are not severe at this time, but they probably do have some very small hail in some of them. And as I said earlier, my forecast has really not been a good one today because I really figured that we'd have storms at least in the southeastern parts of our area. Now, I do expect these storms that are down towards Interstate 20 to gradually build northward this afternoon. We're seeing a lot of heavy rain down in the Fort Worth area. But I do expect these thunderstorms to build in our southeastern parts of the area. So maybe Young, maybe Jack, Wise over here in the Montague and Clay County. And this could also include Palo Pinto and over towards Mineral Wells and more of the Metroplex. These storms are kind of moving east-northeast. I don't know that we're going to see, at least initially, these storms move into more of northwest Texas. They may wind up staying kind of south and southeast. But if we wind up getting a lot of thunderstorms, then what'll happen is it'll zap a lot of the energy out of the atmosphere. We won't have a lot of energy in the atmosphere. Your thunderstorms, they got to have energy, and that energy is created by warm, humid conditions at the Earth's surface, beneath a layer of colder, drier air above the Earth's surface, or just above it. So, if you don't have a lot of that instability that develops down at the Earth's surface, a lot of times it'll zap the energy. So if you get a lot of storms, it'll cool things off, and it'll also have a tendency to zap the moisture or rob the moisture out of the atmosphere. And that could perhaps bring down the threats for any isolated supercells that might try to develop later on this afternoon and this evening. We can look at some model data, and we'll kind of go to that now. Let me pull it up here. So this would be our storm energy here. This is what we call CAPE, and it's just an acronym. CAPE is an acronym for Convective Available Potential Energy. And if you remember from high school science or physics or whatever, there's two types of energy we study. There's energy that sits still, and there's energy in motion. Energy that sits still is known as potential energy. Potential energy is like this pen here. It could write. It's potentially could write, but it won't write unless something makes it write. Okay, that's kind of the energy. That's kind of the example that I use. Or a good one might be your cell phone. Cell phone potentially can be used for lots of things, but it's not used unless you pick it up and actually start using it. So that's the atmosphere, how it works. You try to get this instability that builds up. And we're talking about a combination of dew point temperatures, which is the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, combined with temperatures at the Earth's surface, combined with that moisture and those temperatures above the Earth's surface too. So that is what we call, and it's called convective available potential energy. So as you can see, these blues, and I don't have values here, but these are pretty low levels of energy. We call this pretty much weak instability. It's measured in joules per kilogram, and just know where you see these little blue colors, that's not very unstable, but it's trying to. But again, if you wind up getting all these thunderstorms that develop down in Abilene and the Metroplex and across areas, that tends to work over the atmosphere, and you can see more levels of energy, higher levels of energy, where it's probably a little bit more humid, a little bit warmer down to the deep south, Texas, and those areas. If we take a look at some model data here, we'll look at some model data. Let me change my sources here. Let's see here. And I do see your questions, and we will take some time to answer them in just a few minutes. So you got your radar over here underneath me, and you got this is model data that we're looking at over here. Whoops, I didn't mean to move that. This is model data that we're looking at in the bigger screen. So give me just a second here. All right, so we're going to look at the model data now. Let's zoom in a little closer to the areas that we are looking at. This is what we would consider. Let's look at the CAPE, like I was saying a moment ago. Let's look at that at CAPE. I'm not real crazy about this program that I'm using to run this with too. So you can see this is just going to be. It's not showing you specific times. I can see the timestamp down to on my end here, but this is the latest HRRR computer model, and it does show levels of instability or levels of CAPE trying to build. This would be around 6 o'clock tonight, and this would be into the evening. And then it tries to redevelop some late tonight into early on Friday. So you can see there are some areas of potential energy building, upper levels of CAPE, and then out west where you don't see anything. You kind of see this line that kind of developed, that kind of separates the blues and the yellows from nothing here. That would be your dry line there. And there's probably an area of low pressure also over here somewhere too, near Paducah, Kroll, those areas. Would maybe even be a little bit of a triple point. And the system slowed up just enough to where we may even have this around in the morning too. We can put on what's called MSLP, and that little circle you see there, that would be an area of low pressure. That's exactly what that is. Let's take that off there. Now what I want to do is look at what we call base reflectivity. This would show where thunderstorms might be. So let's kind of look at the forecast. This is the latest runs. And see the HRRR computer model. I don't really like that run there. Let's look at another one. Let's look at the 15, the latest update here, and it's not really doing a good job of picking up on those storms that are developing to our south. I bet the morning run did though. Well, it doesn't really that well either. What about the NAM? Did it? All right, so the NAM kind of did do maybe a slightly better. This is another computer model, but you can see this is what radar might look like. And this would be this afternoon. Look at all those thunderstorms that develop down towards in that kind of that line area, down closer to the Metroplex and kind of along Interstate 20. And that's what I'm talking about. Very rarely do you see major severe weather or big severe weather events when you have a large area of thunderstorms to the south and southeast of you. It just robs the moisture. It zaps the energy out of the atmosphere. So if we continue to put this in motion, now that tries to get out of the way, and by let's say right around sunset, you might have just enough instability developing ahead of that dry line for a couple of very isolated supercells across the western parts of the area. We're talking about southwestern Oklahoma down into northwest Texas and maybe even further north too. These would be probably hail producing thunderstorms or bigger hail producing thunderstorms. There's not a very big cap in the atmosphere. Cap would be warm air above warm air. There's not a big cap in the atmosphere today. So if we can get enough instability or cape or storm energy to develop there ahead of the dry line as the upper air disturbance begins to move east out of the southwestern part of the country, we could see a couple of isolated supercells that may try to produce some larger hailstones. And again, this would be right around sunset. This would be at 7 o'clock. You can see there's not a lot out there, but there's some. And it even carries some of those even further east into the evening hours across more of our area. And you can see that one there moving south of Wichita Falls. And again, this is what radar might look like. This would be into the evening. And once again, this would be hail-producing thunderstorms. We can go even further out in time, and I think that there could be some thunderstorms that might try to also develop tomorrow morning too. Let's look at. I will go back to the HER computer model. This is the morning run. It's just not doing a good job. Well, there it is. That picks up on it on this run here, so that's doing a pretty good job. But it's showing most of the storms this afternoon, kind of south and southeast, and then there are the thunderstorms trying to develop just out ahead of the dry line there. And it moves them to the east into southwest Oklahoma. And again, those would be hail-producing thunderstorms. And then you get tomorrow morning into the early afternoon. There comes your upper air storm system, and those could be some elevated supercells there too. That might produce some big hailstones as well. So we might deal with severe weather into tomorrow, maybe even tomorrow afternoon. There could be some severe weather threats. Mostly hail threats. Now, somebody asked me earlier about the tornado threat. Well, let's look at a different. Let's look at something a little different here for tornado threats. I'm going to pull up some computer models here, and I cannot believe it. One thing about Facebook algorithms, it doesn't like when you use a different source for they want you to Facebook wants you to use your phone. That's what Facebook for these lies, which is stupid if you ask me. They don't want you using something like I'm using Streamlabs. Streamlabs allows me allows me to um, reach as many people as I can on different platforms. But Facebook is a business. I understand it. They don't like it. They want you to use just their platform only. So I get it. And sometimes the algorithms don't push out these alerts like they should because of that. So let me pull in here another source, and we'll talk about any potential tornado threat. All right, let me try to reshape this a little bit, guys. Give me just a second here. Actually, we're probably gonna have to deal with just that alone right there. I need to do some work on it. So we'll just leave it at this for now. Like I say, it might be a little weird looking. Kind of has all the. It's a web browser, is what it is. So look at those thunderstorms developing south of Abilene. I'll try to pull it a little bit further in here, a little bit widen it some, so you can kind of see a little more. Yeah. All right. So I'm surprised my dogs are being as good as they are. All right. So let's look at some weather data, and this is where you get to learn a lot about weather here for me. This is the morning run of the HER computer model, which I like it because this is a higher resolution model that does a pretty good job of showing finer features in the atmosphere. This is what we call significant tornado parameter, and all this does is it takes into account everything in the atmosphere that it would take to produce a tornado. We're talking about the instability or the storm energy, the level at which the cloud bases are at. You need a low cloud base in the atmosphere to get tornadoes, and it's also taken into account of the wind shear, the spin of the atmosphere. So you take all that together, and it says, okay, well these are the areas that if a thunderstorm can interact with these areas, the atmosphere could produce a tornado or some more significant severe weather. Um, you don't see large amounts of that, at least on the HER computer model here. You see some up there in Kansas and northern Oklahoma, but not a lot of that. Um, you can see, well, there's some across deep South Texas late tonight and early tomorrow morning. And then you see some of that over the southeastern part of the country. This is the HER model, though. Sometimes we have to look at the soundings, too. You can click on these areas here, and you can look at different things that show different things. And this is where it gets super confusing. But, we look at a couple things. This over here on the right would be what we call a hodograph. When you see it turn, it's what we call a clockwise turn. That indicates a spinning atmosphere. It indicates low-level wind shear that would be favorable for storms to rotate and perhaps produce tornadoes. And where the hodograph line is stretched out indicates strong upper-level winds. This over here on the left represents the temperature and dew point profiles of the atmosphere. This dotted line would be that instability or that cape. This does show a bit of a cap in place there. So let's go to the NAM. Let's look at the NAM computer model. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's look at the latest runs of the HER and see what it's doing here. It does show it trying to increase just a little bit. But I think what's happening here is that's a really nice wind profile there for sure. I mean, that is a really nice. If you look here on the on this graphic here, notice how these winds veer. These are winds here. Notice you have it's pointing from a southeasterly direction in this area, and then it kind of moves up and becomes more westerly. That's a really good looking veering wind profile. The pretty steep lapse rates, pretty good cape in there. There is a small bit of a cap there, and the cloud basis might be slightly high on that. But there's not a lot of cap, just a little one. Sometimes a little cap doesn't hurt. Sometimes a little cap actually is more favorable. It keeps the atmosphere from producing a lot of storms at once, and only lets the stronger updrafts survive. And there you are, even into the evening hours. So I mean, if we can get supercells here, and we can get just enough instability, I mean, you can't totally rule that out, but that threat is pretty dang low. I'm going to look at the SIG-TOR values on the NAM model. It did a pretty good job with these the other day. See, it keeps most of them to the south there, central Texas. Oh, sorry about that. But NAM is typically not that great of a computer. It does pretty good, though, with some of these convections and these things in the atmosphere. I tend to kind of believe that a little more. So, this just doesn't look like a big tornado producing day to me, honestly. We can look at the latest Storm Prediction Center updates. I use this as a reference. I don't usually use this as something that base my forecast on. I just kind of use it as a bit of a reference. But you can see they have a level 2 slight risk over us. I like to use just severe risk. I don't like their different levels they have. To me, they're very confusing. But you can look at the hail threats, and it does have a decent hail threat there, just east of the dry line. It has a little wind threat there, and it has small tornado probabilities. Mostly they're kind of southwest of the Metroplex, and then some low tornado probabilities there over the western parts of North Texas and the western and northern parts of Oklahoma. So again, I don't think that today is really a major tornado day. I think that today is more of a type of situation where we're looking at mostly hail. Honestly, that's really what I think we're going to wind up dealing with today is mostly hail with any thunderstorms that we get. With that said, I know my boy Cameron Lindsay will be excited. I probably will send the tracker out today after all. I didn't think earlier that I'd be sending it out, but I think I will. And I know he'll be happy about that. He likes the storm chase. So even if it's just low wind severe weather events. So Well, you heard me, Cameron. I just said I'd be sending you. So there you go. But again, I don't expect this to be a major tornado producing day. So someone there says the 5% tornado area scares me. But yeah, don't let it scare you. I just don't think the day's a big. I really think today what's now this would I think this would be a more significant tornado threat today if there were more instability that's going to develop. I just don't think it's going to be. I think all these storms that are developing down there are going to zap a lot of that out, and that could wind up really, really limiting that threat. I think most of the threats hail with these storms today. I mean, there might be a slightly better chance for that well south of Interstate 20 down there in central and South Texas, but I don't think there's going to be. I just don't think that it's anything to be that concerned about. So we got somebody on YouTube that's speaking in Spanish. Que tiempo se viera. I don't, I can read and I can speak very little Spanish, enough to communicate a little bit with people, but I'm not real good at, a lot of that. So I'm sure that's probably something spam anyway. You're talking about Puerto Rico and whatnot. So, but I am trying to grow this stuff. I'm trying to do a better job here to try to, you know, bring more things to the table as far as better looks and more, more of these. It seems today that everything has gone to these podcast looks. I will admit I don't like my microphone. I want to get a better microphone, but to get a good microphone, you're gonna spend about $400 or $500, and I've already spent a lot of money on all this. I got a gaming PC. I spent a lot of money on. Um, I've dropped quite a bit of money here on this, and I really just don't want to spend a lot more money. I do need to do some stuff with my background behind me here. But Cameron, are you where you can jump on real fast? You want to do a collab with me real fast? Because I can pull you in for sure. We can do it. We can talk about where you might. We can. People can see us discussing the severe weather chances and where we might send you today. So if you want to jump on, only thing is I don't have a I don't have an earpiece. My dogs chewed up my earpiece, so I don't know that I'd be able to hear you. I could probably bring you in. I would think I could probably bring you in, through the speakers on my computer, but that might be kind of weird. So, but anyway, and it's been pretty disappointing that we just haven't had a lot of viewers on here today. We just really haven't. 40 to 50 at the most, and that's with YouTube as well. And like I said, the Facebook doesn't like it when you use YouTube doesn't care, but Facebook doesn't like it when you use a platform like this. It just Garrett, the chance for that is extremely low. Listen, you know me. I tell you when I'm concerned about something, I'll say, "Hey, look, if I'm concerned about it, you should be too. If I'm not, then don't." And I'm not concerned about it. I think that if we were to walk outside today and there was sunshine out there right now and it was breezy, humid, it's pretty humid out there, but if you walked out there and there was sunshine, it was hot, and it was humid, then I'd say yes, I think there is a tornado threat because there are some decent winds in the atmosphere. But since it's kind of cloudy out there, even though it's humid, and these storms, I think more than anything, are all these storms that are blowing up now to the south of us and east of us are going to really probably limit the amount of instability or storm energy that can develop here. So I'm not overly concerned about that. Adam, I'm not overly concerned about that. But if you have a question, right now is the time to answer it. I'm about to have to go do my daily chores around the house here in just a few minutes. So I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but um, it looks like Jake Paul is going to be fighting Mike Tyson on Netflix in Arlington at AT&T Stadium on June. Is it June or July? The 20th. No, I'm not, Garrett. I mean, you can't totally rule that out, but I'm not overly concerned with it. I think it's June the 20th. I mean, I'll have to admit that I'm giddy about that. I'm very excited to see. I hope Mike Tyson drops him. But man, Iron Mike, when he was in his late teens and early 20s, that dude was the baddest man on the planet. Now, granted, Mike's old now and he's slow, and Jake Paul is a pretty good fighter. I'm going to admit he's pretty good. He ain't bad. But if you do beat a 50-something-year-old Mike Tyson, is that something really to brag about? He probably will, but I mean, is it? I don't know. But I am excited to see that. Well, I mean, Cameron, we're not. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of sin or a cap over us anyway. I mean, it's just too cool outside, and we don't have a lot of cape that's developed yet. And we might get some. I don't know if you've looked or not. There's not a lot of a cap. The cap's not overly strong today. The sounding forecast soundings look great, but again, I don't know. If they're taking into account all these storms that are blowing up down there near Abilene, I think that's going to kill it. I think it's going to kill a lot of stuff over us today. Gwen, yes, at this time I do think it's going to be a more active, at least early to mid spring. I do expect a more active weather pattern. Looks really active over the next few weeks. Usually, though, speaking, March isn't a big tornado or big severe weather month for us. It has been pretty big as of late, but it usually isn't a big severe weather month for us. Usually, April and May is our bigger month. So, if we can keep this El Nino weather pattern going into April and May, then yes, it'll be very active. But there are some indications that El Nino is going to go away pretty quick, and maybe even as early as May, we're back to La Nina, and that kind of favors the opposite. It kind of causes the southern storm track, which we're having over us now, just go, and it lifts out north, and we transition to hot summer. So that's kind of the way it's been as of late, and that could happen again. A lot of forecasters, which there really is no skill in forecasting long range like that, but a lot of forecasters are thinking it'll be really active. But I tend to kind of think that at least into April we could see a couple significant severe weather events across the southern and central U.S. and then maybe beginning to kind of taper off some into May and June. That's kind of my thoughts right now, but don't hold me to it because it could I may not be right on that. So, but remember, everybody was forecasting this nasty cold winter with all this snow, and my boy Cameron Lindsay and I sat down and we did some research. Well, he did most of the research; it really wasn't me. And he came to me and said, "Ken, based upon based upon what I've seen here, I don't think this winter is going to be that bad." He said, "I think we're going to see above average temperatures, below average rainfall, and no snow." Well, we did get that one snow event, but not officially here where I live. But there was that one snow event. And Cameron was a little bit off on the precipitation end of things, but he was dead right on temperatures. Good job, Cam. We're well above average for the most part. Strong El Ninos, it just keeps that cold air from coming south. A weaker El Nino would allow it, but a strong one like we had this winter doesn't allow it. So I will. I will. I'm gonna keep you updated and posted on all of this stuff here. So, and at some point we will do our podcast. I just don't know when. We've been shooting for it for weeks now, but there's always something that comes up. You know how life is. Yeah, but I'm disappointed though in the number of viewers that I've had on this, and I'm not blaming you. I blame Facebook for it. It's just that's just what Facebook does. It doesn't like the third party apps. But you know what? I'm gonna do it on Streamlabs because I want to be able to reach YouTube as well and Twitch and anything else. I want to be able to reach those people. So and continue to give you good information, not this crap you see all over the internet. So, all right, well, I'm going to go do a quick. I got my dogs in here with me. Here's a little Scarlet Girl. She's dirty. I'm going to do a quick TikTok live update, and then I've got to get did it did it to me a few times. Facebook notifies you. Then when you click it, it says cannot play. Well, that might be because at least initially, it saved some information that See, I'm getting a phone call from Sweden, y'all. It's a phone call from Sweden there. It saved a Facebook Live at least description from Super Bowl when it was snowing outside, and I had to go in and change that. So that was my dogs. They probably see the postman or mailman or something outside. So, but anyway, all right, I'm gonna jump off of here. I'm gonna try to do a TikTok live here in a minute, and then I will see you this afternoon from the station. Amanda, I don't know that we'll even see much storminess here in Wichita Falls. It's going to be mostly kind of southeast of us. There could be a little bit this afternoon into tonight. We may wind up seeing most of our activity tomorrow, so we'll have to just kind of wait and see. Overall, I'd say it's not been a very good forecast. I don't like these kinds. So